Okay, thank you so much, and welcome everyone to the last installment of our 2025 Community Science Long Island series. Community Science Long Island is an annual educational webinar series that highlights various community science opportunities around Long Island and highlights the importance of those projects in supporting local wildlife conservation efforts. CSLI is hosted by CTUC together with Long Island Sound Partnership, New York Sea Grant, Conic Estuary Partnership, South Shore Estuary Reserve, and the Long Island Invasive Species Management Area. So from May to July of this year, we covered topics including Phragmites, water chestnut, and other emerging invasive species. And in addition to these webinars, we've hosted in-person events related to each topic. So we're concluding this season with this Bioblitz webinar and corresponding events. So thank you all who participated in the activities this year, and we hope to see you out and about during the Long Island Coastal Bioblitz. Before I introduce our amazing speakers today, I do want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and it will be later accessible on CTUC's website. Your video and microphones have been disabled, but you are free to ask questions in the Q&A box. And if you have comments or resources for the group, you can feel free to put those in the chat box. We'll also be sharing some resources and event registration links in that chat. So now to introduce our speakers. First, we have Dr. David Taylor, who is an associate professor and interim division director of the Sustainability Studies program in the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences at Stony Brook University. His writing crosses disciplinary boundaries and genres: poetry, creative nonfiction, scholarship, and science writing. However, at the core of his work always is a concern for environmental sustainability and community. David is the author and editor of 8 books. He is lead editor and contributor to An Island in the Stream, Eco-Critical and Literary Responses to Cuban Environmental Culture. In addition, David has traveled to Cuba for over 13 years, collaborating with writers, artists, and scholars. Some upcoming books to look forward to from Dr. David Taylor: Paddling Around Paumanok, Circumnavigation of Long Island to Home, and and the second book is This Long Island, and that is a poetry book. So I look forward to both of those. And yeah, Paumanok is the Native American term for Long Island. So that's really neat and nice throwback to that history. Cassandra is our next speaker, and Cassandra is from LISMA. Cassandra joined the Long Island Invasive Species Management Area, or LISMA, team in May of 2025 as Education and Outreach Manager. With a biology degree from Fredonia State University, she brings 4 years of conservation experience from the New York State Department of Agriculture and USDA. Her invasive species management background drives her commitment to community education and ecological restoration. At LISMA, she develops and implements outreach programs focused on invasive species management and local biodiversity conservation. So congratulations on that relatively new position, and I'm looking forward to working together. And I really love that both of the speakers that we have today have really solid science backgrounds and also are so community driven, because I feel like we can learn a lot from that when we're working to make behavior change and spread awareness about these issues. Later on, I'll be adding some links to the chat. David and Cassandra, if you have anything that you would like to add to the chat, go ahead and feel free. And without further ado, I'll pass it along to Dr. David Taylor.
Hey, everybody. You can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
With the slideshow. All right, just making sure everything looks good. So just real quickly, I do want to give some context. So my studies at the university are actually in English. So my PhD is in English. However, I was a pretty avid naturalist, and also my research has always been on the history of science. And so one of the books that I dealt with in my dissertation was Asa Gray's Manual of Botany in 1848, which was one of probably the most important book in the history of American botany. And so my interest in botany and my interest in the way that I go about it is more from a naturalist tradition than a science tradition. I just really love looking at and naming plants and understanding them. But I'll talk a little bit more about why, and I'll also talk a little bit about the fact that I'm an old geezer and I've done this for so long that the way we go about botanizing and the way we go about plant IDs and talking about these has changed significantly in my time. So real quickly, here's all the little introduction. The plant that you see on the cover slide is called ironweed, New York ironweed. This is actually in my backyard. It's about 5 feet from the back door. It grows up to about 4 feet high. This is actually a volunteer. I didn't plant this or anything. It just grows. I'm lucky I live sort of surrounded by the pine barrens, and so I get a lot of nice plants that come in. Ironweed typically blooms about this time of the year. It's a mid to late summer blooming flower. It's just beautiful. The bees really enjoy it. But real quickly, uh, excuse me, I want to make sure I'm doing this correctly. There. So, some quick pictures. So, this is a plant. This is an aquatic fern that grows in the Northeast. It's called Azolla caroliniana. The, we don't really have a common name per se. It's just people call it Azolla. This is a much this is a really close-up picture. It grows typically in slower moving water in the rivers, and it will clump together in these large mats. It tends to be around the same places you find duckweed, but one of the things is we sort of ignore it, and we think it's just all duckweed, and it's actually a beautiful plant. And come to find out, this plant sequesters as much carbon as pretty much any other plant in the world. And people are looking at this as a way of mitigating climate change. So they're looking at this as a way of growing this in your yards. This is actually also in my backyard, not far from the ironweed. This is butterfly milkweed. We typically get the two that are here. This is just another one that sort of comes up on its own. I just have to make sure the dogs don't run over it. Just it's one of those plants that is just the colors are outstanding. This was taken about 3 weeks ago, so it's sort of gone past its prime right now. This I also took in my yard the other day. This was a little earlier in the summer. This is, my friends call this, variegated wintergreen. One of the nicest things in this one, I love the way I got a good image of the way the flowers point down. But since it's kind of an early summer flowering plant, you begin to see this not you see how many insects go to this. It's just a great place for pollinators. And then this was taken actually in the dwarf pine plains out on the way to West Hampton. This was actually flowering. This is bearberry, and it was flowering about 4 weeks after the fire that went through there. So I took this picture to show people that the fire went over the bearberry. It actually had just taken all the leaves off, and it grew back so quickly. It was flowering and fruiting in just a few weeks. So real quickly, I'm going to go through this. I don't want to linger too much on this because I think the goal that I have is to sort of talk a little bit about the history of botanizing, a little bit about how it can have fun, and a little bit to how it's changed in the 40, 50 years I've been doing botany as a sort of naturalist, and how much it's really changed so significantly. So real quickly, if you see to the far right side, and I'm sure you've seen this around. This is pokeweed. These are the fruit after the very vibrant sort of fuchsia colors of the flowers. This is actually toxic. You can eat some of the leaves early in the spring, but it's just best to not. Just seems easier. The other one is I co-teach a Pine Barrens class in June. And one of my students, I was saying to folks earlier, one of my students had never been out of the city. And so she came out and she was so worried about walking the trails for ticks. She was worried about ticks, so she wore a Tyvek suit all day. And I was so worried about her drinking enough water because I know she was just sweating the whole time. So real quickly, and I just was putting this together as a general conversation. We, as a species, humans have been botanists since we've been humans. I mean, there's no way human civilization can survive without some level of botanical understanding and wisdom, either from the hunter-gatherer traditions of knowing which plants work in which ways and knowing how to harvest them and when to harvest them, knowing them for medicinal purposes, for culinary purposes, for all sorts of different things. And this is the one where these traditions still linger on. I find sometimes some of the best botanists and naturalists I go out with are also the folks looking for medicinal plants. When I go to Cuba, I have a number of my friends there who are what they call curanderos. They're the people who know how to collect the plants to do medicinal work, and they're the best botanists I work with down there. They're outstanding. Theophrastus, just as so to give you a little bit of odd history, Theophrastus is actually considered a bit of the father of botany. And this is a Greek philosopher thinker in 400 BC. He was the first in many ways to think about plants and to try to think about systematic categorizations of them, how they might function, what they might do, which ones are similar, which ones are not. He wasn't working in the same way that we think of in the 18th century with Linnaeus and binomial nomenclature and taxonomy, but he certainly was thinking very critically about how to begin to separate these. In the During the Renaissance, again, 15, 1600, you begin to see botany become more of what we think of as a science. And in this way, by the way, when I was looking this up, I was reading these histories. I'm a little, I'm a little concerned to say that ecology has been a part of botanical science since the Renaissance. I would actually push that back to about 19th century is when people began to think about it. But certainly, one of the things that people began to understand during the Renaissance is that we need to think about plant science and we need to think about plant description and function because it increases both our sort of cultivation of them, but also our sort of understanding and how to sort of work with them so that we can get more from them. And so we can begin to even think then about hybridizing them. In the picture over here to the right, you see a sketch of John Bartram. If you've ever been to Philadelphia, just outside of the city is the Bartram Gardens, which was primarily organized and structured by John Bartram. His son, William Bartram, is actually probably one of the most important late 18th century explorers and naturalists. The Travels of William Bartram is one of the best reads ever. But this is a really, the Bartram Gardens is a really great example to begin to look at this sort of documentation of native plants and how he worked and understood this. The Botanic Gardens, then, it is one of the oldest in the United States. It is really, again, if you go to the New York Botanical Gardens, you'll see they borrowed a lot from the Bartram Gardens. As I mentioned to you before, Asa Gray is kind of considered the father of American botany. And it was really in part because of the understanding of plant distribution, but it's also this sense that one of the things that happened is so much of botany of the New World, the colonies, then slash America, the United States, were really primarily done by European botanists who were really looking at U.S. plants as variations of European plants. And of course, that's just bad science. So one of the things that Gray is he really went back and restructured the guide to the way we categorize and classify these plants. Gray's Manual of Botany is still updated, and some of the science is, probably not totally up to date, but it's still a very, very, very good book. I was just saying earlier that I have some of the more recent editions because I was using it when I was first doing my botany sort of rambles in the late 70s and 80s. Um, this is something that I wanted to talk about a little bit because it's changed so much in my lifetime. So if you look at the top right, you see this metal case with this little strap on the top, and this looks brand new. This is never the way one looks. This is called a vasculum. So what we used to do is we would throw this over our shoulder and we would have clipping scissors and we would walk around. There would be a little bit of water at the bottom of this and we would find our plant cuttings and we would cut them and we would open up this little trap on the side and we would keep all of our plants there during the day. And then we would bring them back to the lab. And what we would do there is we would start to then dry them and then we would start to create plant presses, which is what you see here below. I found this looking around, I found this picture. This is the oldest surviving tomato and leaves brought back in 1558. But I still teach this every now and then to the students at Stony Brook. I teach them how to do plant presses because I realize it's not so important these days between digitized, information and photos and between, machine learning and AI. I realize this is an old style, but I can tell you in my time, having worked with different collections, these old plant presses are incredibly important when we're looking at the history and distribution of certain plants and understanding how they've moved over the years. One of the more recent, really interesting books that came out about 15, 20 years ago was by a guy at Boston University who was looking at Thoreau's botanical journals. And Thoreau kept very, very good journals about plants. And so Thoreau would mark which plants were blooming what day, what was the temperature, and he would go through this every year. And come to find out, this climate scientist had found that actually plants had moved 25 to 30 miles to the north since Thoreau was working in his journals in the 1850s. And so this is the kind of thing where these kinds of journals and these plant presses are actually really valuable. One of the things then we would do is we would get out our taxonomic books and our guidebooks, and we would compare them with earlier collections, as I mentioned, but we would use our leaf shapes and guides. And typically, if you've never done it this way in this old style, you typically do it as a binary. You say, oh, is this a monocot or is this a dicot? Is this a herbaceous plant? Is this a woody plant? Is this a, you would go through this whole thing and you would start to narrow it down. And then ultimately, if it was something that you were really not sure of, you would go back to then to the collections and to other guidebooks to see what all's there. This is the kind of thing where when we would find something new, we would notify state agencies and agricultural extensions if we found invasives or if we found something that was really unique, and particularly certain plants that were not common, right? However, now it's changed so dramatically in the last 5 to 10 years with the ability to use our phones and the ability to sort of look at and use different apps to identify plants. I actually went to about 5 different sources to see for sure what this is, but it is generally true that between iNaturalist and PlantNet, they're about 95% accurate, which to be honest is potentially more accurate than I was when I was a kid doing these plant presses, right? So I'm not so displeased with 95% accuracy. I will tell you, I think sometimes, depending upon where you take the photo and what part of the plant you're capturing and what's behind the plant, that will often really change what you're taking and what result you get. I realize that the AI is still sorting out some of these details about how it's recognizing the plant that you're wanting it to sort out. I really want to say to you, I think this is actually doing a great service. My partner, who's a soil ecologist here at Stony Brook, she's taken somewhere around 6,500 to 7,000 plant pictures on iNaturalist. She is renowned. I mean, if you look at anything on Long Island with iNaturalist, it's got Sharon Cochran on it because she takes pictures everywhere. It's kind of annoying actually from my side of it because I'm an old geezer and I just want to sit around and have my guidebooks and do things. But one of the nice things is so much of this information is actually turning into good citizen science. You can mine a lot of this data in a way that's really much more successful and much quicker than looking over here at the guide at the old plant presses and sorting through it, which I love for nostalgia. But I also think is one that, I'm actually very pleased with what's going on with these apps. Um, I don't really want to go into too much of the details with plant IDs because I think it's something that you should really, if you want to dig into it in an old school way, I think that's wonderful. If you want to talk to me about it, I'm happy to do it. If you ever want to, there's a Long Island Botanical Society. And there's some outstanding botanists on this island. I mean, outstanding. And I have to tell you, being around that group makes me feel younger because I'm one of the young folks in that group, which says a lot about the group. But it's also the one where I would like to see more young people in the group because when I spend time taking people for walks in the woods, I see that the more I get young folks excited, to me, then I think this is a tradition that will pass on, that will also turn into environmental concern and caretaking. So, real quickly, I went through the key features of some of the things that we used to do, stems and or branches. Are they woody or herbaceous, right? Are they kind of soft and green versus being like bark, right? Do they trail, climb, or stand upright? What about the leaf shapes? Are they broad or pointy, triangular, and lobed? One of the things I love here on the island is sorting through all the oaks. And I really like the oaks because most of the time you can tell by the leaf shape, but every now and then between like scarlet oaks and red oaks, you really have to look at the bark and have to look at the branching to tell the difference. And this is the part where it's always fun to sort through these things. And it's also really nice to sort of think about this and go, oh, I have to look at different parts. The flowers and fruits, observing the color, the number of petals, and the presence and absence of berries or other fruits. And of course, defense mechanisms. One of the things I talk to folks all the time is, that the smilax, the briar that we have here is really scratchy, and right next to it typically is poison ivy, which does not have any thorns. And then right next to it is Virginia creeper, which is just kind of there. Do you know the difference? I was talking about this picture in the middle earlier. This I took in my backyard as well. This is a plant that I planted called ramps. And those of you who like garlic and onion flavors, if you harvest one of the leaves come up in twos. If you cut one in the early spring, it is the best flavor to put in a salad or to cook with. It's just outstanding. So someone brought back these ramps from Connecticut. I planted and I've got them now to where they're flowering and seeding. Typically, ramps, though, grow faster by bulbs. They'll expand in the bulbs more than the seeds take like 2 or 3 years to actually grow. But they have such beautiful flowers. This is just when the sepals are out and they're about to open up with the flowers. Their ramps are native to Long Island-ish. I've never seen one, but I've been told by many they're around. When you go out to look at plants, here's what I do. I take notes. I always have my journal with me. I have my phone. Sometimes I just take notes on my phone, but often I really like my journal. Look around the plant. What's there? How's it growing? What's next to it? Are there relationships? What animals might be using it? What about it made you notice? How did it stick out to your eye or to your nose? What seemed to be there? Write down thoughts. And this is the one where, being a bit of a poet, I always like starting with good description, but I also don't feel the need to be restricted to that. I also always let my journals sort of wander off and have some fun. And then I draw, and I'm very bad at drawing, but I have my little packet of about 15 colored pencils, and I try to draw in the color as best as I can. And one of the most important things you can do is write down the date, time, location, and weather. These are things that really do become important. That's the nicest part in some ways with the apps is they do geotag where you are. And from that, people in the future can begin to look at that data and match it against weather patterns. next to your location and time. So it's kind of nice that way. It's actually taking care of this. I'm, again, being a little bit old school. I actually like doing this physically with my journal. The plant you see here is one of the earliest flowering plants we have on the island, called trailing arbutus. I lead a walk sometimes over in Farmingville, and I found this there a couple of years ago, and it was the only flowering plant that I saw that day. Um, One of the reasons I think to begin to think about plants and to think about native plants and invasive plants is to begin to think about where is it we live? I spend a lot of time talking with my students and other folks about understanding what is this island? How did it get here? How long has it been here? How long were the plants? How did the plants come to be where they are? How did they change from the North Shore to the South Shore, from the east end to the west? How do they change as you go up one of the moraines and you add a couple of 100 feet in altitude? And you will see that they change dramatically. I think one of the things that also matters is understanding the plants and the ecology of your area helps us to understand about the interconnections between our place as an ecological home and our place as a human home. And the more we might be able to find a way of working with those so that they're mutually beneficial, if at all possible. I am very fortunate to live out here on the East End, in the Pine Barrens core. I've got land that backs up to a wetlands in my backyard. And I'm really fortunate to see a lot of native plants and a lot of different kinds of ecology between the dry pine barrens to the wet sort of bog areas. And it's just outstanding. We have such an extraordinary island. So one of the things too is the line, and this is what I know you're going to learn a great deal more about this evening, is the line between native and non-native plants. And I think this is something where when you're looking at mugwort or you're looking at garlic mustard or others, these are the kinds of things that you will should begin to look at and consider. And I'm going to defer that conversation to later. Real quickly, some of my favorite finds on Long Island is we get these beautiful orchids in the kind of late spring, early summer called lady slippers. We really only get the pink ones mostly, but I had looked for a while and I finally found one a couple of years ago down. This was actually just right off the trail at Quag. The next plant is an American chestnut. I was saying earlier, I found over here in the Calverton Ponds near where I live, in the forest there, I found a 40, 50 foot healthy American chestnut. There's no sign of the blight. This is sort of the unicorn of trees in the eastern part of North America, and it's just exciting to see it. Most of these have been wiped out by the blight. We can talk about that some other time, but I was really happy to see this tree. The lupine actually grows in a part of my yard here. It's a wild plant that grows. It's just pretty. It grows up to about a foot and a half or two. And then the last picture, I've been traveling to the Pine Barrens where the fire happened in late March and April. And this is a pitch pine. And one of the things I'm trying to document by going out every 2 weeks and looking at the plant succession is how the Pine Barrens recovers from fire. And I can tell you, it is extraordinary how good this fire was for the Pine Barrens. It is the healthiest thing that's happened to that forest in a long time. And this is exactly the way the pitch pines, which looked the first time I saw them totally black and dead, they are not. If you look at it, this is all new growth and sprigs coming out from these nodes around the tree trunk. And this is now, I'm actually should go here in about another week, and I'll be looking at seeing how long these have grown. So I'm going to leave you with this that Long Island is one of my favorite places I've been doing botany. It is just extraordinary. There's so much diversity in such a small place. And we have these changes between the moraines to the North Shore, to the South Shore, to the Pine Barrens, to different places that really give us a lot of diversity. So thank you, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. If I've got to run, but in the future, send me an email to Stony Brook. Any questions you might have, I'm happy to help however I can.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate it. And yep, you can find David at our Cranberry Bog in-person event that we'll be having on the 16th. So thank you so much. All right, so with that introduction with for Plant ID, I'm going to speak briefly about the Long Island Coastal Bioblitz, and then Cassandra will go ahead and tell you how to use iNaturalist and how to be prepared for that in-person event. Okay, so welcome to the last installment of our 2025 Community Science Long Island series. This particular webinar, we are highlighting our Long Island Coastal Bioblitz. And the Long Island Coastal Bioblitz is hosted by SeaTech Environmental Association, Long Island Sound Study, Peconic Estuary Partnership, New York Sea Grant, South Shore Estuary Reserve, and LISMA as well, Long Island Invasive Species Management Area. And one of the goals of the island-wide BioBlitz is to better understand the ecological community and biodiversity around Long Island's vitally important estuaries. So a BioBlitz is a community science effort to record as many species as possible within a designated location and time period. And our Long Island Coastal BioBlitz is an example of this that we have. I believe we skipped last year, but for the most part, it is an annual event. And scientists and community members work together, and we find, photograph, and identify as many plant and animal species as we can over this week-long period. This year, that is going to take place from August 10th to 16th. We have a kickoff event as well as an ending event on the 16th. And to track all of this, we do use the iNaturalist app. So what are some benefits of a BioBlitz? Firstly, building connection with nature, discovering rare or endangered species that you may have not even known we have here on Long Island, preserving unique and valuable habitats, a better understanding of biodiversity, understanding long-term changes to an area, and lastly, identifying invasive species. So here are some of the coastal areas that you can observe during Coastal BioBlitz. We have beaches and dunes, salt marshes, freshwater wetlands, coastal grasslands, and coastal and inland forests. So with that, I will turn it over to Cassandra, and she will tell you how to be prepared for a BioBlitz and how exactly you use iNaturalist.
Awesome. Thank you, Valerie. So I'm gonna share my screen now. Wait 1 second. Alrighty. Are we good? Can everyone see me? See me here? All right, awesome. So hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Cassandra Moyes. I am the Education and Outreach Manager for LISMA. And tonight I'm going to go over briefly what iNaturalist is and how to use the platform. So if you're not familiar, LISMA stands for the Long Island Invasive Species Management Area. We are groups of organizations working together to reduce the threat of invasive species and protect local ecosystems in New York City and on Long Island. Funding for LISMA is provided by the New York Environmental Protection Fund and is administered by the New York Department of Environmental Conservation. LISMA is hosted by the nonprofit organization LIMPI, also known as the Native Plant Initiative. So you've probably heard that iNaturalist is described as an identification tool or an online community, but to summarize it at its core, iNaturalist is an online social network of people sharing biodiversity information to help each other learn more about nature. So this platform helps you identify plants and animals around you while generating data for science and conservation efforts. So iNaturalist, again, is a wonderful tool that community members and professionals rely on. To this date, there have been nearly 2,500 million observations globally. iNaturalist is a great way to learn and connect with nature, but it is also a powerful tool for conservation agencies like LISMA. So your reports can help alert us to new infestations of invasive plants that we could tackle early on, or rare species that we are working to protect. So thank you in advance for helping us protect our biodiversity here on Long Island. So there are three versions of iNaturalist. Don't let that alarm you. I'm going to briefly explain what they are and the differences between them. So the first one that you see listed there is iNaturalist. This is the newer redesigned mobile app for iOS devices. And this now features a AI built-in, um, I guess, ID suggestion, very similar to the app Seek. And the next one that we have listed here is iNatural Classic. This is the original version of iNaturalist mobile app. It was renamed to differentiate from the newer iNaturalist app that they recently released, but the iNaturalist Classic has a simple interface, but it provides the same core functionalities like recording observations and identifying species. And lastly, here we have the iNaturalist website. It's the website that holds the whole iNaturalist platform. You can use the same iNaturalist account to access the website in both of the apps. There, you'll still see all of your observations and all the communities that you belong to. All right. So now that you know a bit more about the benefits of using iNaturalist, I'm going to jump in and get started and go over some of the instructions about how to join our project. So follow along as I go through it. The most convenient way to observe species on the go is using the iNaturalist app. So if you don't already have it, please feel free to download the free iNaturalist app now. Once you have the app, you're going to create a login and create an account and log in. And once you're logged in, you're going to scan this QR code. And this QR code here is going to bring you directly to the Coastal Bioblitz homepage. And once you get to the homepage, you're gonna, on the top right corner, you're gonna see a little thing that says join, but I'll explain that a little bit more. Let's say if you don't have access to a smartphone that can use the iNaturalist app, you can still participate in the project, but you're going to use the iNaturalist website. And the way that you find the project is to go to this search bar here, and you're going to type in Long Island Coastal Bioblitz 2025. And once you find it, the screen is going to look like this. This is the homepage on the desktop on the computer, but this is exactly how it looks on the app as well. So here, once you find the project, where I want to bring your attention to is here where you're going to press join. Once you've joined the project, all of your observations from August 10th to August 16th within an estuary environment will automatically be contributing to our BioBlitz. This is just a quick video demonstrating what I just said. And there's going to be another video playing right after it that's going to show you how to make an observation. So that's quickly, you scanned the code and it brought you directly to the page. And there at the top right, you're going to press join. And you're going to scroll down. This is giving you a bit more information about the project and rules about adding observations. Down there, you're going to press yes, I want to join. And when this reloads, this is going to bring you right back to the home page. And again, everything that you are collecting, every observation you make is going to contribute to our BioBlitz. So right now you see now I am a member, I'm a part of the BioBlitz. So this next video shows you how to make an observation. There we go. So I do want to bring something to your attention. Towards the end of the video, they asked the question, is your observation either wild or natural? Wild or naturalized or captive or cultivated? And what this really means is, at least for our purposes, for our BioBlitz, everything should be wild or naturalized because you are going to be blitzing around estuaries and outdoors. But in the future, if you're a little confused, the term captive or cultivated means anything that was like man-made, man planted, and like a person planted it there, like let's say a street tree, a garden bed, or something even in your backyard. On the opposite side, anything that is wild or naturalized is meaning that it's to its own means out in nature, and it doesn't seem as though somebody put it there. And for our cases, the app default setting is to wild or naturalized. But in the future, let's say if you are taking pictures of something that you like might see in a garden, but you want to make an observation of it, do select the captive or cultivated option. And this is just a screenshot of the newer app. This is what it looks like in the iNaturalist Classic. You can scroll down and make the selection of whether or not the organism is wild or captive. Here, you're going to have to edit your observation, and the section just to tell whether or not the organism is wild or native is down here under other data. But again, the default is always going to be wild, so you don't have to worry about that while you're blitzing if you're in a wild like environment, I guess. So now I'm briefly gonna review some tips on how to take pictures. David kind of alluded to that a little bit earlier. So you see here we have some examples of how not to take the photos. Some of the pictures here are a little too close. You're unable to make out exactly what you're looking at. Other pictures, things are too far away, and there's other things in the background that's kind of getting in the way of the AI's ability to identify what it is, or even a person in the community trying to help you identify what it is. So make sure you have a more focused photo that you are uploading. Here we have some examples of photos fit for a positive ID. Notice that some of the images here, the species in question is isolated. Sometimes they may even add a reference object, something small like a quarter or your hand or something just to help differentiate the size. Having a nice solid background would be very helpful when you're taking pictures of aquatic plants. Taking multiple photos is also very useful with IDing, and being sure to utilize while you're taking the photos, try to zoom in and take pictures of like leaf serrations, whether or not it's alternate, things of that nature will help definitely. And I would recommend you, even if you're taking a picture of things like mushrooms or a seashell, try to take a picture of the underside as well, because those characteristics will help in the identification process. And be sure to utilize the notes section, write notes about things that you observe in the environment or even the organism itself that a picture can't really tell you. Like Valerie mentioned before, there will be 2 in-person events happening. The first one will be on August 10th at Blydenburg County Park, and the next one will be on August 16th at Cranberry Bog Nature Preserve, both starting at 10 a.m. Please scan this QR code to register, or you could visit the LISMA events page. We also do have it listed there too, where you can register for the in-person meetups. So before I let you go, I'm going to go over some BioBlitz best practices. So while you're out there, we do want you to be safe, respectful, and most importantly, have fun. So with that, you got to pack your essentials. You got to make sure you stay hydrated, wear your choice of sunscreen and reapply, and consider carrying around some form of bug spray if you're going to be in these wooded areas, right? Along with being safe, you got to remember, leaves of 3, leave it be. Poison ivy is native to Long Island, so it could be found just about everywhere. So please be familiar with the leaves. I like to think of the leaves looking like a little mitten, like a little hand, like right here. And more mature poison ivies sometimes will start to grow into being more woody, like we have here. And it has like these little hairs that come out. It's a little hard to see when it is climbing on a tree. So moments like this, I would try not to touch just about anything. I would avoid touching this area if you noticed it, you know. And unfortunately, we do have several types of ticks here on Long Island. Some of them do carry diseases that can affect humans. And most recently, it was found that we now do have the Asian longhorn tick, which is known to carry Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Um, and some of these ticks that we already have here are known for carrying Lyme's disease. So that's why I say maybe consider carrying some bug spray to make sure we don't have ticks on ourselves after we leave. Definitely lint roll yourself too. We'll pick up any ticks. We're definitely thrilled that you're out there exploring. But it's important to be respectful while you're out there and make sure that you check out the rules and regulations of the park or the body of water that you are planning to Bioblitz at. And be sure not to trespass on private property. Yeah, we don't want that headache, you know. And I just want to remind you to be mindful of nature. And what I mean by that is try to avoid unnecessarily disturbing plants or animals. And let's say if you do pick something up, be mindful to put it back carefully where you found it. And of course, lastly, I want to remind you to have fun. Enjoy the time that you're out there learning about organisms around you. Share your posts and tag us. Check out other people's observations. And if you're up for it, even help out in some IDing. Leave comments that grows our community. And definitely, I recommend you checking out the journal feature on iNaturalist. You could definitely get a more in-depth understanding of what some people are working on this app. And with that, I would like to say thank you. Here, if you have any questions and we don't get to it in the Q&A, please feel free just to email us at invasive@lisma.org and check out our website, lisma.org. And with that, I want to say thank you for having me.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That was very helpful. Good prep for the events. So we did have one question. I know that Bree, you had resolved that, but I just want to cover it in case anybody else has some issues. When you are in iNaturalist and you're trying to find this campaign, it would be the LI Coastal Bioblitz 2025, and that should bring you to the project page. So yeah, if we have any other questions, we could stick around for a couple minutes. If anybody wants to throw that in the Q&A, we could go ahead and answer it. I have left in the chat earlier on the website where the recording to this webinar, as well as the previous webinars from this series will be. That's on CTUC's website under Community Science Long Island or Community Science Webinars. And we have our in-person events sign up under that Google form that you can reach. I left that link as well. So yeah, if there's any questions, go ahead and leave them in the Q&A. And if not, we really hope to see you out and about during the Bioblitz and hope that you join one or both of our events. They're both really unique areas. The Cranberry Bog Nature Preserve is right on the border of Riverhead and Southampton, not too far out east for those of you who live further west. And it's a really cool ecological area. It as the name shows, used to be a cranberry bog, and now is kind of nature has taken it back. So you could still see some of the remnants of that. There's an old kind of decrepit pump station, and there's some very cool animal species. We usually see egrets when we're there. There's some carnivorous plant species as well. And I don't know if one of you wants to just talk a minute about Blydenburg, which is also a very unique area.
Yeah, I could talk about Blydenburg. Excuse me. Just first, I put the project page for iNaturalist into the chat, so everyone can just directly go to there. Blydenburg County Park is in Hauppauge. It's a really interesting area because it used to be Stump Pond, and after the well, particularly where we will be going, used to be Stump Pond, named after the old Atlantic white cedar stumps that lay on the basin of the pond. But in August 2024, the dam failed, which allowed all the water from the pond to drain out and return back to its natural riparian habitat. So there was a grist mill there 200 years ago. I mean, it's still there, but it's no longer in use. So it's really interesting because we get to see a sort of a snapshot from 200 years ago, what the river used to be like. And that's a part of the Nissaquag River system. So it's really cool seeing it green up, and watching the birds and the pollinators that now frequent there. So if you haven't checked it out already, I definitely encourage you to do so. If not this weekend with us, then any other time. It's really cool spot.
Okay, thank you so much, Ariel. All right, and if there are no questions, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. And thank you again to my partners at CTUC, Long Island Sound Partnership, New York Secret, Peconic Estuary, I'm Peconic Estuary Partnership, but South Shore Estuary Reserve, and the Long Island Invasive Species Management Area. Really appreciate all your help with this series, and thank you so much for joining. Have a great night. Take care.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Hey guys, thank you.